What's up, Windwalkers, and welcome to my Mythic Soul Hunters guide for Manaforge Omega. I've decided to try and do these guides a little differently this time around, where I actually look back in retrospect and go through each aspect of the fight, from talents and gear, all the way to how each of the hero talents play out during the fight, and my thoughts on all of it. The video will be split into two parts. The first part will be the analysis and discussion of the encounter, and the second half will be a clean run through of the whole fight. This will be the structure of all these boss guides, and I think this makes it easier for you to see the encounter with a commentated discussion, as well as the option to watch the fight without interruptions. As with all of these guides, you can find the talent builds I recommend in the description, as well as the advised trinkets and timeline reminders for the relevant hero talent. Cool! I hope this style of video works well, and the analysis helps you with either getting your first takedown, or just getting a nice juicy pass. Anyway, let's get to it. Right. Soul Hunters. Now, it's funny, on Prog I actually played Conduit on this fight, but it is a SHADOPAN fight. It's similar to Lumathar in the sense that there is more than one target. And what do we learn from Lumathar and Soulbinder and Araz and all these bosses that have more than one target up at different times in the fight? Crackling Jade Lightning is fucking broken. Have a look at our damage for this one. Crackling Jade Lightning, 8 casts, it pretty much does Fist of Fury damage, right? Flurry Strikes, hard carrying. Why? Because you're hitting pretty much 3 targets at all time with your Flurry Strikes. It is a very strong fight. Blackout Kick also does a lot of work here, more than Spinning Crane Kick, in fact, because you go the cleave build. It is just a SHADOPAN fight for all those reasons. Just the damage profile is better, and 2-minute cooldowns are just so good for this fight. Like, it cannot be understated. 1 minute 30 is okay, but it doesn't line up as well as you might think it does. And SHADOPAN just plays better throughout the entire fight based on boss positioning and stuff like that. Shadowboxing treads, must have. Jade Ignition, really good for this one because think of Mythic Plus, right? When you take Jade Ignition, you're doing Fist of Fury a lot, you're spinning Crane Kicking quite a lot because there's 3 targets, so it's like your, in quotation marks, main filler sort of thing. So you get a lot of value from Jade Ignition. And then reducing the cooldown, of Rising Sun Kick, more importantly, increasing the damage of Blackout Kick. Very useful. Lightning, we like that. Once again, Zuin's Battle Gear. It's a very common theme that even though this is a big AoE fight, getting the cooldown on Fist of Fury is just valuable. SHADOPAN really likes that in the raid, and that's why you run this. Potentially Ordered Elements, but you actually drop Ordered Elements here, which is, I think, the first time that we do this, that I've shown, where you don't actually take ordered elements. And that's because you just don't need the chi reduction, really, on this fight. Whereas with Conduit, you really do need the chi reduction during Storm Earth Empire, super valuable. You have so much resources with Tiger Palm generation that you actually there's just no necessary need to take ordered elements. It's just more valuable to just take something like Jade Ignition instead on this tier of build. And then you can just see all these Blackout Kick talents, Lightning, super valuable. Back to 1 minute 30, Fortifying Brew. And other than that, I would, once again, as I said, for every single boss this thing, I would have taken Ritual Forge over Nether Prism every single time. Because if there is one boss in this raid where your damage on pull is super important, it is the 3 target cleave raid boss, right? Like, it's not a single target. There are 3 targets from the get-go, all stacked on top of each other. Popping cooldowns at the start of this boss without any trinket to buff that damage, it feels bad. And the fight is still 6 minutes, so it's valuable. But you'll actually see that my 6-minute cooldowns are actually really useless, because at this point, you kill them. You start to kill them so quick, and you will in the future once you have more gear and raid buffs, yada yada. That you essentially don't get much value out of your last cooldowns at 6 minutes because either 1 or 2 of the bosses are dead or died during the cooldowns, right? So having as much damage as possible front loaded at the start of the fight makes a lot more sense than having it back loaded at the end of the fight. When the end of the fight, actually, you're not going to do as much damage because half the targets that you're trying to do damage to are just dead on, arrival. Antenna, once again, it's just, it is what it is. It is good trinket. Soul Hunters is a ranged fight, right? Um, Melee on this fight, you know what your job is? It's to smack the boss and look pretty. Ranged, like, it's the meme of payphone, right? Ranged are sweating, playing out, they're completely different fights. Ranged having to do all these crazy mechanics with sucking up, like, absorbs, making sure they pass the dispels to each other, doing all the hard work. Melees, you just have to dodge a mechanic every so often. That's it. Dodge a mechanic and stand inside of a hunt. Very easy melee fight, and I would argue that Windwalker is probably one of the best melee for this fight. Surprisingly, like going into this tier, I thought Windwalker would suck on this fight. I think it is genuinely one of the strongest melees on this fight, and it's just because of Flurry Strikes and Crackle Jade Lightning. They're just so strong. They carry the encounter. So much so that, well, you see the damage at the end, right? Like, if I got my 6-minute cooldowns off and all the bosses were alive, probably top damage. Got a little bit zucked at the end, but you'll see as I go through the fight how the damage is just so high as Windwalker. So this is why I talk about wanting to be front loaded for this fight with Araz Ritual Forge, is that you're hitting all 3 targets, right? All 3 targets. If you had a Araz Ritual Forge, suddenly you're doing so much more damage. You just go absolutely ham. I should have popped Touch of Karma and Pull here. I pop it a little bit late, but it's actually not the end of the world. It should still line up when I need it. And you're basically trying to keep up with your AOO stacks whilst doing big AoE damage with the haste buff from Lust. And you're going to send out both Storm Earth and Fires out here. And this is going to be a recurring theme throughout this fight, is that both Storm Earth and Fires always go out together on this fight. It'll make sense in a sec. Big thing to point out here when we start the fight, and a little tip that I learned. I died a lot to these lines. This boss, Dark Sorrow, he puts out green lines on the ground. You got to dodge them. You don't dodge them. They touch you. You get one shot. You're just on the floor. It is probably the only thing as a melee you can really die to outside of double stacking in the hunt. I died too much to this, whether it be from pressing Whirl and Dragon Punch at the wrong time, being a greedy boy. Tons of reasons I shouldn't have. What did I learn from this? I learned that the moment Duskblaze dashes, get the fuck off these guys, follow Duskblaze. You will never have to deal with the lines, and your tanks will pull these 2 bosses into Duskblaze within like 3 or 4 seconds. You'll see how fast they get pulled into it, and you avoid this mechanic every single time, except for like 1 or 2 when intermissions are about to come up. It's safer. You lose essentially no damage, right? No damage, because you'd be having to dodge these lines anyway. You just follow him, no mechanics on you. You safe and sound, and the bosses get brought to you. On top of this, there are defensives for this fight, and similar to Fractilis, where you popped a defensive every single circle, like after every break, you pop before every single, what's it called? Soul? Oh my god, what's the mechanic called? Demon Hunter. Soul Bomb? No, that's not it. Something bomb. Every time they cast the bomb mechanic, Spirit Bomb. Yes, Spirit Bomb, thank you. Every time they're about to cast Spirit Bomb, that's when you defensive. And you kind of rotate your defensives in between the Spirit Bombs. It just hits like a truck. And it kind of overlaps other mechanics that do damage. You don't need a defensive for the hunt. Don't get like debated by this. I know it looks like a big damage. It doesn't do any damage unless you double stack. If you double stack, you're dead anyway. Defensive ain't saving you. If you aren't double stacked, you'll be fine. As long as there are enough people in the soak, I suppose, right? But like, you just got to trust that there are enough players in the soak to not let you die. So that's the big one from that. And you'll hear a countdown at all times. I set this up myself because even though I have a notification, just hearing the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 before every Spirit Bomb, I knew press defensive, be okay. Don't have a defensive, finger over the health pot, health stone sort of thing. So even though my Storm Earth and Fire is rolling, I'm out of there. And what do I know? Oh, the bosses are here. I dodged the Blade Dance. I'm fine. And sometimes the Blade Dances are a little bit trickier. That one was a pretty fast-paced one, but sometimes the bosses come a little bit slower. I just don't risk it. It's not worth it. So, oh, cool. I got the hunt on this POV. So I only watched back a few bosses before I did this stream thing. So I'm watching this first time as well as you. Well, I guess I played it. I lived it. But so I get the hunt. Good example of the hunt. If you are targeted by this and you're a melee, give as much room as possible. What's that? I pop no defensive. Put it to half health. I'm fine. I trust it. It's just give as much room as possible for the players to get inside of it. And then we might have missed it, but I come back in. I instantly Crackling Jade Lightning. Really important to note here. even if you have to hold a 20 stack Crackling Jade Lightning for 5-6 seconds, I always do it because the value from hitting all 3 compared to just 2 is bigger than you'll think. So even like if I get a 20 stack Crackling Jade Lightning and I'm following Dark Sorrow, I will wait for the other 2 to get back in before I send it because I want to guarantee I hit all 3. Never stand in front of the boss. You will get eye beamed. Trust me, it hurts. Once again, where's he going? I'm fucking gone. I'm not dealing with that mechanic. I know it's carnage. It's not worth my time. The bosses are already on top of me by the time that I start popping anything. It's just, I think it's safer. In terms of damage, you will deal a bit less damage in the fight, but you don't deal damage if you're dead. So we get a hunt here. I was very concerned here that I was double stacking with people, and there are about like 7 people in that soak. So sometimes it is actually safer to move out of soak than it is. It sounds like you're dodging a mechanic, right? In a way, and technically you are, but there are a lot of times where you overlap like hunts and stuff like this, and you will just kill each other because all melee are kind of stacked on top of each other, and this does happen. So that was like a prime example of that. So, good example of Blade Dance. So this is one of the situations where you see that I always run out, right? Because Duskblaze hasn't done the mechanic now. It doesn't because we're about to go into the intermission. Look how fucking terrifying this is. You've got like 10 lines and a massive cone on top of myself. This is what you'd be dealing with every single set event. Like, basically. It's just not worth it. It's why I always move out so fast, because this is just panic-inducing. And I'm just like, I'm out. I'm just like, get me out of there. So I try to avoid that every time that I can. And you can see I'm not sending another Storm Earth and Fire. I do send one more Crackling Jade Lightning just before the intermission because I want to get as much value from it as possible whilst they're all grouped together. And now it's time to play Chill with my homies. I do pop 1 defensive during this intermission, and it's only Fort Brew. Essentially with these orbs, you want to take 2 per person. 2, and then you wait, let other people take them. So I take 1 here, and I think I take 1 in time again, and I pop Fort Brew before it, but then I don't take any more. Because if you start taking more, you start taking a bit of damage. In fact, I think I actually do. No, I was going to say I take 3 here, but I think that was on the pool before when we wiped it. Like, when you take 3, you'll see yourself dying. So, the bosses are coming down, and what do you notice? The bosses don't actually come down at 2 minutes. Delay your cooldowns for 20 seconds. And then every single time the intermission finishes after this point, it will always be 2 minutes. Like, this is a very scripted fight in terms of mechanics and intermissions and stuff. At 2 minutes 20, 4 minutes 20, 6 minutes 20, these ads will come down. That's just how the fight plays out. So by delaying it, you send your cooldowns out when there's a 3 stack. 20 stack Crackling Jade Lightning. My Nether Prism, I suppose, gained a bit more stacks, maybe. And I've got double Storm Earth and Fire. And there's nothing going on. So this is the best time to send out your cooldowns and stuff. Because they're all stacked, you get double Storm Earth and Fire value, you just do insane damage. It is the best time, and all it cost you was an extra 20 seconds of holding. See, I stayed in for a second. I didn't follow the boss. Did I get punished? I absolutely got punished, because then I had to sit out. I should have just followed Duskblaze instantly. I didn't trust my own advice. Bad monk. So some were essentially doing the same thing again. You can see tons of melee stacked here, and I decide I'm moving out because we were kind of overlapping again. Like, trust me when I say the amount of times, like, it's so easy to not see someone that you stood on top of, especially in melee, and we were running a lot of melee. So half the soaks I do stand in, but anytime I thought to myself, I think there's another player that I'm stood on top of or slightly over, I just move out because it's not death damage. Like, usually I try to stay in, but I died the other week from doing that exact same thing. I thought I was safe in a position. I was stood pixel perfect on top of the Mistweaver. We both just got 1 shot because I just couldn't see him because our circles were literally overlapping. Once again, I just go over to the boss, avoid all the mechanics. Did I send out a lightning there? I did. I actually sent out an 18 stack lightning there a little bit early. Probably should have delayed that for when they all came over, but not end of the world. And then once again, it's just the same thing. You know, we're popping defenses on every Spirit Bomb. But other than that, it's just making sure, like, the range to playing this entire fight for us, right? So, look, another soak in. I know that I'm perfectly safe here. So then I stand in the position because I know that no one else was near me. Good, easy save. It's just, if you're ever, like, really skeptical about it, like, sometimes I'm just like, I think I'm on top of someone. I don't want to kill us both. Otherwise, it's probably a wipe on this fight. You can move out. You know, it sounds like bad advice, but it's I don't think it is. Unless, like, you moving out causes everybody to die, then yes, it's your fault. But if you were potentially killing someone by you both not moving out, then it's good. Either way, intermission 2. This is when I should have defensives. I shouldn't have popped Fort Brew there. Because you can see I have a Fort Brew timer here. I shouldn't have popped it early. This is the one time when you want Diffuse Magic and Fort Brew. This is probably the scariest intermission in terms of actually taking damage. The rule of thumb that we played by was you only pop a defensive if you have 2 lines on top of you. 1 line, take the hit. Be a champ, take the hit, you're not going to die. 2 lines on top of you, pop a defensive, take both hits. Don't do stupid movement to kill someone, right? And that's how you play it. So the most important one here is Diffuse Magic, because that's going to like save me the most from a double dash. See, 1 here, I don't pop anything. It's just 1, half health, fine. Got hit by 2, insta dead. So 2 here, but I see I can move out in position, so I do pop Diffuse there. But that's because I think I probably popped it just as there were 2, but I probably didn't have to. I probably could have survived it and moved forward and be fine. And then, once again, what's that? 4 minute 30-ish, roughly. Pop all my cooldowns, everything stacked together. Big Crackling Jade Lightning, all cooldowns come out. And it kind of lines up really nicely. Dodge the I-beam, don't be stupid like me. And the fight essentially plays out like this again. I probably follow the boss here because I'm terrified. Yeah, a little bit late, but we did it. We did all right. And it's basically just trying to get the most value out of these double Stormwrath and Fires. But the reason, like, you don't want to be, like, Stormwrath and Firing willy-nilly, and it just makes more sense to play this fight as a Zuin double Stormwrath and Fire, is at the start of each set, it's really chill. Like, genuinely really chill. There's, like, maybe 1 I-beam going out, maybe 1 dash and some hunt, but outside of that, it makes sense. And there's no point sending out a Stormwrath and Fire during the intermissions, right? During the intermissions, predominantly it's 1 target. Even if you can crack the Jade Lightning the adds in the air, that's the only ability hitting them. It just makes no sense to do that. So this is where, when I was talking about earlier, where my 6 minutes kind of fall off a little bit. And that's because you can see how low all these adds are. We're at 5 minutes. This is a 7 minute 30 fight. Half of these bosses are dead. you know what I mean? So we'll... At this point... Okay, we get 1 more soak. I'll watch this. So you see the soak again. I move forward. My tank says, watch out. There's going to be an I-beam. I panic a little bit, but I don't move. I accept my fate. I move slightly. The slightest tweak, and I survive it. The worst thing I could have done there was move left, right? So at least, like, because he called it out, I knew, right, moving left is not an option. So I do move into the soak a little bit, just to guarantee I don't hit it, because it's wider than it looks. But I did almost die for it. I probably could have just stood still, but it's just safer than sorry. But you can see how close these bosses are pretty much dead, and that's what I mean. These fights are going to be so quick, eventually. But it's always going to be a SHADOPAN fight. Even if you don't get your 6 minute cooldowns off, it's just not... Conduit just doesn't play the fight well enough for this sort of damage. So, you know, 1 more lightning at 16 stacks, because I know that at this point, when the bosses come down, I'm not going to do anything anyway. They're pretty much all dead. And this is just a get behind the boss thing. So we actually kill him mid-intermission, and then I think the bosses come down early. And then, look, this guy's dead before I even touch it. And then that's the fight, right? So I don't even get my cooldowns off. So you could ask the question of, would it make sense to actually pop your cooldowns at 2 minutes, 4 minutes, 6 minutes? I think no, because if you pop them at 2 minutes and 4 minutes, you're popping them during the intermission, which means you're only hitting 1 target anyway for the majority of the damage. I still think it's better to get off 2 cooldowns and lose the 1 on 3 targets compared to 3 sets of cooldowns on 1 target. And then even then in the 3rd intermission, you're not hitting that boss half the time. Half the time you're running like an absolute lunatic to avoid its mechanics. This was my least favorite. Was it? I enjoy this fight a lot more now we finish prog. I hated it on prog because I kept making the mistake of staying too close to the big boss and dying to the lines and stuff. Once my small brain could compute that I just had to move out and drop like 2 seconds of damage to 3 targets, it became a lot more fun. Optimizing the cooldowns as well for the 2 minute 20, 3 minute 30, 6 minutes, whatever. Also, really useful. And you can see really high damage.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Touch of Karma. Storm, Earth, and Fire. Invoke Suwin, the White Tiger. Pick up Fracture. Storm, Earth, and Fire. Fortifying brew.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Spirit bomb.
Orb. Orb.
The hunt.
Pick up fracture. Diffuse magic.
Laid down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Spirit bomb.
Pick up fracture.
Orb. Orb. Orb.
Touch of karma.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Spirit bomb.
Fortifying brew. Invoke Siwan, the White Tiger. Storm, Earth, and Fire.
Orb.
Pick up fracture. Storm, Earth, and Fire. Diffuse magic.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Spirit bomb.
Orb.
Sigil of change.
Touch of karma.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Spirit bomb. Sigil of change.
Orb.
Pick up fracture.
Orb.
Spirit bomb.
Pick up fracture. Fortifying brew. Diffuse magic. Invoke Siwan, the White Tiger. Storm, Earth, and Fire. Pick up fracture.
Orb.
Touch of karma.
Orb.
Storm, Earth, and Fire.
2, 1. Spirit bomb. Sigil of change.
Pick up fracture.
Orb. Orb.
Laid down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Pick up fracture.
Orb. Orb.
Diffuse magic.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inferno strike.
Orb.